So welcome to lesson 6. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the process step by step of adding properly formatted elements into the body of an HTML document. This is part 2 of elements in the body of an HTML document. Now I'm viewing CodePen.io here again. This is a new untitled pen in which I've added HTML code representing a table. Now for the purposes of seeing the structure of the table, I have added a little bit of CSS so that the table in the display at the bottom on the left has some visual structure to it for the sighted user. So the CSS is reflected over here. So I've just added a border and a little bit of a background to the heading elements. So I'm not going to go into the details of that CSS here in this video. You can rewind and pause to see the code there and mess with it if you want to. CSS is not covered in this course directly, but just wanted to give you a visual on what this looks like. If you don't add CSS or some form of design element to your table, then it's all white background and you don't see the separation of the cells. Okay, so in this lesson we're going to go over table tags, elements in the body of the HTML. We're going to be specifically looking at tables and how to code them properly, both for valid HTML purposes as well as for accessibility. So notice we began the table easily enough with the opening tag is just table, and a table tag requires a closing table tag. Now for each subsequent row of a table, you have to have a TR tag, TR standing for table row. Within each table row tag has to have a closing TR tag. Within the TR tags are TH and TD tags. So the difference between these two is TH stands for table heading and TD is a standard table cell. So here we have a TH tag. Now TH tags are a bit different because they contain attributes, and the attribute for a TH tag is the scope. So in this case, the content of our TH tag here is name. You can see that displayed down here. So the scope of this particular tag is column. So what that means is, for accessibility's sake and for a screen reader, when a user with visual impairment that's using a screen reader gets it down to, let's say they get down to this cell, okay? This cell, it does have a name in it, but if you have a scope attribute defined, such as we have here, scope equals COL for column, then the screen reader will read the contents of the TH cell and then the contents of the standard cell. So for example, a screen reader would read name, name John Smith, name Michael Jones, name Betty Brown. And in the same way, since we have a scope attribute of column defined for the second TH tag of email address, it would read email address john.smith@gmail.com, email address mjones@yahoo.com, email address b_brown_36@aol.com. So you can see how when you add that scope attribute and you specify the appropriate direction, column, and now the other scope that you can add is row. So if you had on the left hand side heading cells that you wanted to utilize, like let's say your table is a grid and there are definitions of what you're looking at both on the left and across the top. Like for example, a salary schedule could be one example where you have steps in the salary schedule along the top and specific job titles down the left hand side. Then a scope of row would be appropriate for any TH cell that is placed in that left hand column. And then what would happen is when a screen reader gets to a particular cell, if there are scope column and row cells, it would read the contents of both the heading at the top of the column and the heading at the far left of the row before reading the contents of the cell. So you would have context for which cell you were in, which is beneficial and helpful. It also defines and creates more meaning for those cells semantically, which is good HTML practice. So now each of the tags in a table require closing tags. Notice that TH has a closing tag, the TR has a closing tag, every TD has a closing tag, and the table itself has a closing tag. There are other types of cells that can be placed, or types of tags that can be placed into a table, such as T-head, T-foot are also available. Those are typically used for printing tables and are not needed. They're not required. You don't have to use them. I haven't put them here because they're not highly important to use. There are also caption and summary options that you can place into a table, but I'm not going to be covering those today. So it's important to not use tables for layout purposes, meaning if you want to get a visual representation of some text or some content and you want them to be placed in nice even vertical rows like they do in a table. For example, if I remove this CSS here, so when we remove the CSS from the table, I added it for visual purposes to help you see. When you remove the CSS, you can see that there are no lines, no particular background colors or anything, but the text of each of these table cells is organized in a nice vertical row. You don't want to use tables for layout purposes to improve the look of where your content is placed. If you have a need to move your content around the page and place it and position it according to some required design or just aesthetically pleasing element, then you should use cascading style sheets for that and take the time to learn that code. So that's basically it. You can and you are encouraged to practice your skills with table code utilizing the tags that are here in this lesson, trying them out. You can change the TH scope to row if you put a TH element at the beginning of a row like this. You could call that row. So then if this was not name, maybe this was title or something. There's a whole number of different ways that you could use that to provide more meaning to the content of the text in your table cells. So I appreciate you watching. I look forward to seeing you in lesson 7 and have fun practicing with tables.